Hello, everybody. I'm Jan Fuhrer, and welcome back to Makilala. With me are my co-hosts, Christina Pastor and Rochelle Ocampo. You probably noticed that Maria is not with us. She has stepped down to complete her fellowship, which brings me to an exciting announcement. We here at Makilala are looking for the next Makilala lady. The details will be in our website, our Facebook and Twitter account. Before we get into our discussion for today, I would like to give a big shout out to the production crew. They work so hard, their dedication and their passion. We are so grateful that, 6 episodes already.
Yes.
Whether on location or not, you guys are always here, snowing or not at all.
Yay.
Yay, thank
Production
you.
crew.
Joining us today is the founder of Queens County Parents Autism Coalition, Ms. Cheryl Ocampo.
Thank you.
The feisty Cheryl Ocampo. Welcome to Makilala.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that you're here. All right,
Hi, Cheryl.
let's get started. We had our official launch at the consulate in November. So Christina, any highlights?
Highlights. It was a great launch. It was kind of well attended. We had about 200 plus guests. And what's exciting about that is that we sort of recreated this setting at the Philippine Center. We had a couch, the 4 of us were there moderating, and we were joined by the Consul General, that would be Consul General Mario De Leon. And we discussed a very important issue, the difference between the first generation and the second generation.
Yes.
And Rochelle and I had a little friendly tip,
Yeah, actually.
which you will see in the next episode in an upcoming episode of Makilala.
We were also on location at Sea Wonder in Soho. Rochelle and I were there. I think it was fun. What do you think, Rochelle?
Yeah, it was a definitely different experience because we were actually not in the studio. And just having that experience of interviewing somebody like off the cuff was very different. So
Yeah, it was also for a benefit for
fundraiser, yes,
fundraiser.
for the Eric De La Cruz Hearts for Foundation.
Right,
So.
it's for the victims of the typhoon Haiyan
Yes.
or Yolanda. Which brings me, the past few months, the community, they're dedicated in the relief and rebuild efforts in the Philippines. Together with my 12-year-old son, Joshua, and his friends, they rallied the community and we collected over 10,000 pounds of used clothing,
Wow.
Crazy.
which was converted to about $2,500 of funds raised, which were donated to Philippine Disaster Recovery Foundation, which they're heading this brick by brick project. Because in order, and it's actually private companies, which is like that's why it's really a great idea. Because in order to rebuild the Philippines, you have to go, as they say, brick by brick.
How did you accommodate 10,000 pounds of clothing? How many houses did it fill?
Well, our driveway and the shed and like 3 other families' garage were all filled with
really?
bags and bags and clothing.
That's one big yard sale, right?
Yeah, I know.
But it was just heartwarming to know that Americans do care about the Philippines.
Yes.
It was there was I think it was your piece on your newspaper that said that Americans don't care in the Philippines as much as they did in
It's not in my newspaper.
Oh.
I don't have a newspaper.
No, it's called my newspaper.
It's something we picked up it's something I picked up and then I posted on Facebook. It only says that they were comparing the 2 tragedies, Haiti and Haiyan, and they're saying that American consciousness was heavier on Haiti than they were on the Philippine incidents. So there were different. It generated a lot of interpretations. So look at it any way you want to.
Yeah.
Well, Unipro also have. Do they have fundraising, or you guys organized all the?
Yes. So what we've been doing is actually collecting data. We left all the event planning and fundraising to the organizations, and we wanted to create a more cohesive, way of collecting data. So what we did was we got all the organizations that were collecting funds, collecting donations, and we put them on this document. And we're going to be publishing it soon so that everyone can see the transparency of where they're actually where the money is actually going. So we have just a list of all these organizations, and
That's
hopefully
really
we'll be-
very interesting because I think that's the next step
Yeah.
in the entire rehabilitation effort, fundraising effort. Where the money's going, who's getting them, and are they reaching the people on the ground?
Yeah.
Right, that's actually why my son and I, we started this project because we just don't want it, we didn't want to just donate to anyone. We want to
Exactly.
follow the money, we want to make sure that the money's the funds raised actually go to the victims and that people are accountable, people meaning the organizers, the leaders of different organizations are accountable that, you know, these are hard-earned money donated by a lot of people, and it should be transparent to everyone where the money goes. And as a mother, you always want to teach your child like the good things, you know, the good and the right. Like, what do you think? Like the best mother experience, like your mom, like advice. You think?
The best advice? She's really more of like a selfless type of person. She always gives and gives and gives. So I always look up to her in that way. She never expects anything. She's always just giving. So.
What about you, Cheryl?
Well, in regards to the relief efforts, I remember just in conversations, that was one of the concerns that I heard too, was, you know, we just don't want to give to anybody because how do we know, you know, where is that money really going to? So I remember for your fundraising, I had shared that as much as I could so that, you know, they would understand that the money was going to somewhere that was a credible
Did you have any kind of
organization.
a fundraising activity? I mean, your coalition, did you sponsor anything?
Our organization in particular, we didn't.
You didn't,
However, we, as I had just mentioned with Jen's, because we do have a very large network on Facebook, so as much as I could, I would direct them to that fundraising event so that at least they knew that it was a credible
Yeah, I have
fundraiser.
people calling from Maryland, Philadelphia, even the office of Senator Menendez called me to ask about the fundraising event. I mean, I guess because of social media.
Yes.
And of course, you put in a word about my low
Of
guy.
course, yeah.
And then, like, it
Yeah.
traveled. I mean,
Yeah.
just so many people shared the information. And you know, as a mom, I mean, I think I'm a mom more than anything. I'm always like advocating for my kids. And
My mother?
yes,
My mother is, she is very quiet woman. She is also, she's not the type who would tell you what values to have. She's not that kind of person. She's not pontificating, but she shows things by example. I think I learned frugality from her. How to use your money wisely.
Same here.
that's great.
Yes,
And
I
she
forgot about
never
that.
wore makeup. I think I imbibe that up to this point. And I credit her for that. She's a very simple person.
Based on our topic today is the reason why we have Cheryl today. We're talking about the faces and strength of autism. This subject matter is dear to my heart. When Joshua, my youngest, he's my fourth kid, when he was about 12 months old, like you couldn't hug him, you couldn't cuddle him, like he didn't want it. He wasn't looking at my eyes when I was talking to him, and he wasn't speaking. Now you can't stop him from talking, but we were concerned, and
Of course.
And you thought that there might be something.
yeah, and luckily I have our town, Cranford, New Jersey. They have support system, and I'm talking to my friend Dina. She's a close friend of mine, college friend who lives in the Philippines. She wrote to me that here what she wrote: I'm virtually raising my Asperger's child by myself, as my husband works overseas. It can really be overwhelming at times, but fortunately, the good days surpass the bad ones.
Yeah.
That's
So,
That's
is
true.
it true? I mean,
Yes. I'm gonna try to talk about it without crying.
Yeah.
I
It's
do
okay
ha-
to cry.
I have to tell you, I have to tell you, it's hard. It is hard, especially when it's your own child. I do have 3 children. I have 2 typical boys, And then my daughter Zaraya is the youngest one, and you know, I had the two boys, and I was waiting for the little girl. You know, I said,
Yeah, yeah.
I want the little girl, the little princess.
Exactly.
And she was this typical baby up until maybe I would say about 6 or 7 months old when I started just to see certain things. And it's like you said, Jen, you know, it's the eye contact. We lost the eye contact, and it's very devastating.
So what step did you take when you realized and when you stopped and said, I think there's something I should check out? What actually got you to your feet and called somebody or went online to research more about it? Because it must be so hard to think that, oh my gosh, I think my child has something.
I honestly will tell you, Rochelle, that I didn't know what autism was.
Okay.
I knew there was just something a little off with her. I have to say, thank goodness we have a fantastic pediatrician who was actually the one that picked up on those developmental delays.
And what was your initial reaction when you found out?
I was shocked. The automatic thing when someone says autism to you is mental retardation, which now it's in intellectual disability. And
I didn't know.
Yes, they did away with that term,
Okay. Oh, okay.
MR. And I remember at the pediatric neurologist office when he told me, you know, he just asked me a bunch of questions, and then he gave me this diagnosis and said, okay, well, she's autistic. And again, I said, you know, she's not mentally retarded. That was my first assumption because of the stigma.
Where were you? Was there a part of a segment where you were kind of in denial, like, no,
Oh,
this
yes.
can't be?
Yes.
There is no such thing in my family. There's no such background
Yes,
in my family.
exactly. And I'm a first generation Filipino American, so my mother was with me at that doctor's office, and you know, it's funny because I remember my mother initially told me, you know, I had a feeling that's what it was, and I said to my mom, why didn't you tell me then? And because it is the stigma. It's the stigma because we don't have it in our family. And I was in denial for a very long time. For maybe.
Jay, you mentioned that it was your pediatrician. I mean,
Yes.
Interestingly, Susan Boyle,
Yes.
she's Britain's Got Talent winner.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
she sang.
She's
Yes.
singer.
I dream a dream of time gone by
Yeah, when hope was high.
and life's worth living.
Okay.
That girl? That one?
Yeah, that girl.
Okay, yeah.
Can we keep our day job? Do we have to? I guess.
You are no Susan Boyle.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, we're not. Yeah, she was just diagnosed. I mean, she's probably like 40s,
Yeah.
50s or something.
Yeah.
She was just diagnosed with Asperger. And all growing up, she didn't know that, you know, she knew that something is off, but she just couldn't figure out. I mean, other people thought she was just like, as you said, like mental issues. So when she finally, you know, at this age was diagnosed with Asperger, she actually was relieved because now actually there's.
Was she just diagnosed recently, or she's known all along? She just released it recently.
No,
She was diagnosed.
she was just diagnosed.
Is it possible, Cheryl, that one can be diagnosed late in life?
I believe so, yes. In my experience professionally, there have been certain cases with families that where children, let's say 13 or 14, 15, are being diagnosed at that age.
Oh my goodness.
And it's a shame, and it disheartens me as a mom because they haven't been receiving those services that could have helped them all along.
How are your boys doing? How are they
Oh.
coping with?
It was hard in the
condition,
beginning.
yeah.
I have to tell you, it was very hard in the beginning because they're about 4 or 5 years apart, each of them. And when she was younger, you know, all the attention was on her. And then when she got diagnosed, then again, most of the attention now was on her. So it was very hard for them to understand. But now that they're older, the oldest one is 20, the other one is 16. She's the youngest, she's 11, and she just she gets all this attention now from the big brothers, and she can't do anything wrong. So
Can you count on them to assist with Zaraya's care, for example?
yes, I am actually proud that I can say that. Of course, I still have my fears about the future because after all, they are young men and they're going to get married and have their own families, right?
I read that post that on Facebook where you said something like, I talk to my boys that in case something happens, they will be there. They should always be taking care of their younger sister.
That's right.
You know, that made me cry.
True. Yeah, you're talking about it now, and I'm about to, holding it in.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, there's another mother that I met through Facebook, actually through Christina. Her name is Marichu Karagayan.
Maribu, I think.
Maribu, all right, Maribu Karagayan, sorry. She's the mother of Christian, and Christian was also autistic. He is 27 years old. Marichu wrote that, this is what she wrote. I underwent the emotional struggle of realizing that my child has autism. I even sought professional help where I learned that it is not the end of the world to have a special child. Right. And what's interesting is that last June, Christian did a recital. He plays the harp at University of Santo Tomas
In Manila.
Yeah, in the Philippines. So when you see that, I mean, that's just gonna give you, like, you know, it is something special.
Yes.
And
There's something fascinating about autism that I find really interesting. This savant syndrome, which is where Susan Boyle and Christian, I think, falls into. You know, there's something about the brain that is working and also a part of the brain that is not working, right? And it's all in one brain.
Right.
It's called the savant syndrome.
Wow.
Right?
I've never heard of that.
You have, Cheryl. So there are some people with autism that have that.
yeah, they have like a sixth sense or
They,
something.
they,
They have, like,
they are really,
okay.
some are really talented,
Right.
usually in the musical
Yes.
area.
Yes.
And yet there is something deficient in some parts of the brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it can happen in,
Yes.
in the same brain.
Yes.
I think what's important to know is that autism is not just autism. There's all different levels of
Yes.
autism. And when people think of autism, when you mention this big stigma, they immediately go to that term, mental retardation.
Isn't it a disadvantage to put every different categories or different levels into one, to say autism?
It is. It
Right?
is.
I
It
mean-
is because actually a good friend of mine, our children have the same diagnosis, the same subdiagnosis of autism, which is PDD-NOS, pervasive developmental disorder, none otherwise specified.
Wow, what does that mean?
Basically, what that means is there is no medical test to confirm that they have any kind of deficits, blood tests or MRI or anything like that. And my daughter and my friend's son, they're the same age. They're 11. They both have the same diagnosis. They're in the same type of class, but when you see them, they're two totally different children.
Oh, really?
And it's amazing that you know, when you say when there's a saying that says when you see one child with autism, you really just seen one child with
Yes.
autism.
So it's different from child to child,
Yes, it
individual
is.
to individual. I'm curious, Cheryl, how does the Filipino community, what is their attitude towards people with autism? Are they compassionate? Are they understanding? Are they derisive? Are they indifferent
I would, in my experience with some of the
with our community?
community, I say I think it's a little bit maybe of both. I think it's indifferent and it's also compassion as well. In our community, I have experienced that there have some people that I would have never known otherwise that they are very compassionate. So I do find them to be understanding and wanting to learn more, which is really what was most important.
So what motivated you to? I mean, it's probably an obvious answer. What motivated you to organize QCPAC, Queens County Parents Autism Coalition?
I know it's a long name. I'm so sorry. You know what it is? It's right, as you said, Jen. It is the obvious, of course, is Sarai, right? But I have to tell you, the person that I was before, I was very to myself, very reserved. Didn't really have leadership skills. So when I started this organization, I really was lost. I wanted to be able to meet other families who were living the same lifestyle as me, because I said I can't possibly be the only family who has a child with autism. And I said, you know what, let me just go out there and see who's out there, because we would be able to help each other. And that's really how it started, because I wanted to be able to bring the autism community together so that we can all help each other.
So, Cheryl, I just realized, not that I just realized, but we have the same last name.
Yes,
just throwing
we
out that.
do.
We are, I guess, related.
You never know.
No, you never know.
Where are you from? Are you from the same province? Or something?
Well, my dad is, I believe, from the that's bad. I don't know, right? But dad's
We're just
originally
guessing.
dad's originally from Manila, and mom and dad right now they live in Pampanga. Right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Are you
they're-
Pampangueño too?
Not that I
parents?
know of, but anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there, little Ocampo.
Okay, yeah.
But I just wanted to ask you, in your organization, have you ever been faced with the question of how there's a stigma of what is those shots? Immunizations.
Immunization, yeah.
Immunizations affecting or causing autism, because there's been a lot of backlash with that.
Yeah.
So now, what are your personal thoughts, like from all the experiences that you've heard with other families, what they've been going through? What are your thoughts?
And I know you ladies know too that the MMR vaccination is a very controversial one. It's been in the news. There's a lot of parents that have been saying that the MMR vaccine did trigger
Yeah,
symptoms in their children.
That's only one kind of thinking.
Right. And however, for in my personal experience, which I can't really speak for the other families, I know my daughter, and I know what she was doing, and I know what type of child she was before that. And I would have to tell you that it's devastating when you see this, quote unquote typical child, and then all of a sudden it's a totally different child after that.
Oh wow.
So how do you go about understanding, we talk about understanding your child's diagnosis. A friend of mine, Jennifer Love, she was the director of Autism Speaks for like a few years. She has a nonverbal child. She's almost like 13. And, I gathered all this information to talk about autism. And what she said, like as a mother, one of your worst days is the day that your child is diagnosed with autism. But then you get past it because as a mother, one of your happiest days is remembering that the birth of your child and realizing that the dreams you had for that child did not come true. Instead, you realize that this child is your dream and they have already far exceeded your expectations.
Yes.
I think most
Yes.
mothers,
Yeah.
at first you're like, you don't know what to do. And then after that, you're like, you just have to go through and love because it's still your baby. So I hate that we didn't get to finish talking about this. We have, there's so much information, but we're gonna head and switch to Rochelle was at NYU,
Yes.
Mr. Philippines.
Well, I first wanted to make sure, do you have any contact information for your organization so that people who are in similar situations or know of someone who's in autism, or who has autism, can go to as a resource?
Yes, they can go directly to our website. It's www.qcpac.org.
Okay.
And they can just fill out the contact form there, and the email comes directly to me.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
So let's welcome Jerome Valoria.
Yes. Jerome Valoria is actually someone I met judging Mr. Philippines at NYU. And it was a crazy experience. It felt so awesome to judge 21 amazing contestants.
Jerome, welcome to Makilala.
Magandang hapon sa lahat. My name is Jerome Valoria, representing the College of Mount St. Vincent.
that was an amazing medley of classical and pop by Jerome Villoria. You can contact him at jvilloria.student at cmsv.edu. And we want to say thank you to Jerome for that wonderful piece. And thanks to our special guest, Cheryl Ocampo. You can contact her at qcpac.org. That's her website. And of course, I want to say thanks to the production crew, the cast and crew. Another amazing episode, another fun one, I hope for you too. Until next time. Oh wait, I have an announcement. Anyone with developmental disability in New York, go to opwdd.ny.gov. The intake phone number is 718-217-6485. Until next time, Makilala.